Hello and welcome into the SorareData NBA Strategy Show. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me at Lairdinho on Sorare. Joined today by Alex Super, TiltCityFC, who is inside, and Keith Jamison, Gator Guy 231 on Twitter, Gold Guy 231 on Sorare, who is outside today because why not? Why not?
Why not, Laird? Why not? The Golden Arches did not work out well, so I found an outside spot.
So it's good that you live in a warm weather climate too, because I wouldn't be able to really do much in the cold of the Connecticut winter here. And I think a lot of people who are familiar with your content agree with Andy here that they're pretty disappointed you're not in your car. For those of you who don't know, Keith does a lot of DFS content and does it literally while driving his car very safely. Somehow he does this all without like detailed notes. I think I've seen like a napkin you wrote like one note on, and somehow you do like 20 minutes of content with it. But appreciate the effort.
The best comments I ever got was I had it on like a bank receipt. I had just hit the bank to have like make a deposit, and I'm like, it was a big deposit, so hopefully we all do really well.
Shout out to you actually using a bank like in person as well. Yeah. Anyway, we kind of touched on this topic in bits and pieces in various shows, and Keith thought it was like worth having a full discussion on these kind of cheat codes week to week, whether they're actually worth it. We kind of talked a lot about them in terms of the like, should you play or should you sell? And it actually came up in the Sorare First Pitch Discord, which is available for all Patreon members. So everybody who hasn't joined that, check it out. And it came up this week with TJ McConnell. And the whole question is really like, are these guys worth it? And Keith, you had like a very simple response to it, which I think is the right response. I'm going to add on a little bit of that after, but can you kind of just explain like whether you think like buying TJ McConnell this week, given all the Indiana issues, is worth it?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll go twofold with it. One, like the reason I kind of wanted to re-hit the topic is actually in our little mini chat between the three of us, I sent you guys, I want to like say last week, and said just like flat out it can just be tiring to follow all the news, to like buy up the guys, and then all of a sudden you thought you had like the best cheat code of the week, or even if they were a cheat code, only to something else comes out or it not work out, and now you're holding this bag in your gallery. You're just like looking, you're like, I paid 0.035 for that guy, and he's 0.0. I have one, I paid 0.035. I'm gonna keep it just for the laughs, and he is worth 0.003 right now. Okay.
There's nothing worse than buying a card and then later seeing the 2 zeros before a digit. Like, you're just like, oh.
Yeah. But I'm keeping it, and then Sorare tilts me by letting me win his rare. But it was just like I have a few of those, and it's because you kind of chase the cheat to make it, especially like these super low L10 guys, because like Alex has said before too, they've earned their really low L10 typically in the past, right? So they're not sustainable guys. McConnell's probably a different story. There's a lot of DFS love for TJ McConnell through the years, but my response to the guy that asked it, I think the exact question was, is chasing TJ McConnell, meaning he knows he's chasing, is chasing TJ McConnell this game week worth it? And my response was, if you win. Like, if you win enough, then sure. Like, if you can invest, like, if I ask anybody, like, let's take Sorare out. Laird, I'll just ask you, if I gave you $50 and you could make, and I said there is a 90% chance that you'll make 100, you're probably doing it, right? Yeah,
I will take that.
Yeah, you'll take that chance, right? So if your team's already really good and you're TJ McConnell away and you think you can win a 0.15 card for spending 0.04 or whatever it is, then do it. But if you are like gonna max out at like a T5 or T4 because you don't have like, you know, a Luka, or you don't have any like alpha guys, and he's just kind of fits in a lineup you don't think is going to win, then that makes no sense.
And And I think that's kind of the toughest part is like, obviously, well, not obviously, but it feels like every lineup you build, you're just like, I could see this winning. Like, and nearly all of us don't. Literally can only be one winner, like first place winner each week. But it is one of those things that we need to like examine more of our lineups before we make like a TJ McConnell move. Is that like, if you're going from like, obviously you're doing it so you can fit in somebody better. It's usually like a 2v2, usually not 3v3, but like it could be. So it's like, who am I replacing if I can get McConnell or who does McConnell let me get? And like you said, if you're moving from like a likely tier 5 to a tier 4, like it's probably not worth it. The one that like the concept that I wanted to kind of go further with, and Alex, I wanted to hear what you said about this, because I feel like you look at this, you kind of may have looked at it this way, but like, is it more valuable to try to get these guys when they're not the cheat codes and just hold them? Like, we've had this conversation of like buying extra guys, but like, would it have made sense to buy McConnell 4 weeks ago, like before all of the injuries and like, does it make sense to have those types of guys? Because then you're not really like, you're effectively probably getting like 5 of them for the price of the cheat code, and you're getting like, just because you're getting them before the cheat code.
I mean, I think if you can identify them early enough, then yeah, that's what you want to do. Like, I think at this point, we know like Nazreed's going to step into situations where he is a cheat code, and it's going to happen often. Terrence Mann, I think, is a great example of that. Man, just literally. Because like, yeah, how many times are Paul George and Kawhi Leonard going to miss? Quite often. And then he steps in and he's still got a constant role, even when they're in, and his L10 comes down, and then you play him again. So McConnell wouldn't have been a guy that I identified. Like, I've been watching TJ McConnell play basketball for years and years and years, and he's never been a guy I thought would drop a 70. And then I won him, and I was like, I hate this tier 2. And then I played him. Now all of a sudden I'm in line to get another reward. But to answer the question, yeah, if you can identify it, and if it's a repeating sort of pattern, I would go back and wait. But at the same time, like, what is the premium? What is the premium on the player? Like, how much more is McConnell now? And like, is the time and the opportunity cost worth waiting for it to come down, like 0.03 or something like that? And these guys don't exactly normalize quickly at the rare level. At the limited level, they normalize, like you get the middle finger graph and they bomb down, yeah, like that. But at the rare level, it can be a little slower. So it just, yeah, it does depend on like, are you going to win? I think my rule now for a guy like this, that's funny, he's actually kind of leveled off. But my rule now for guys like this that I'm going to try and stick to is, if he was in my gallery already, would he be one of the first 3 guys in that lineup? And because I'm tired of chasing, like, and I think we've said this sort of thing before, like, if you have 4 guys in your lineup and you're like, all right, I need a guy with an L10 8 max, you've messed up. Like, unless that guy's already there, you already have him, and he's one of the first 3 guys you want to plug into your lineup. If you're there, like, it's not good enough. And I think a guy like TJ McConnell, if you already had him, he was definitely within the first 3 that you're going to play in a contender lineup, probably. So it might make sense to pay that premium in that case. So that's how I'm going to take a guess. But long term, it's about the guys you identify, not the guys who step into like a singular injury. It's more the guys I mentioned. Karis LeVert, another guy who steps into one of those positions when you see injuries over and over, guys who rest.
So I want to ask both of you. Oh, go ahead, Laird.
Well, I was just going to say, like, I think that the point you brought up is one that I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, this is just how you play the game. But like, if you are asking who's the best player with an L10 of 8, instead of like, I know the cheat code and I'll just go from there, like, it's usually the answer is never good. Like, does anyone have an L10 of 8 with a projection of 25? It's like, no. Well, what's the highest projection of somebody with an L10 of 8? 9. And it's like, okay, I'll just get that guy. And like, that's not the way to do this either. So I just wanted to add on that. Sorry, Keith.
No, I agree. So I want to ask you both this. So if you had held TJ through all those lows, so like Laird, like you bought him at $5, and then he went up to 30, would you be playing him or selling him?
Are you asking me what I would do or what I think the right thing to do is?
How about both?
I think the right thing to do is sell him, and I would play him. Especially if I had him already.
Hashtag team fun.
Yeah, I think the biggest point that I see is like I'm not buying him at 30. Like I know that much. So I'm not team total. I'm not team YOLO. I'm team fun, I guess. But I don't think it's like worth buying guys at. I mean, did he get to 30? I guess he did. He got over 30. My God.
Yeah, got it right around there. What about you, Alex? I'm curious.
Yeah, I think what Laird said is the right way. Like the smart thing to do is just take that profit, like a 5x profit on a guy like TJ McConnell who's just going to go right back into a backup role eventually, and is just a lifelong backup. Like just take it, because the odds of you actually winning a $20 card, I don't know what that looks like now. Like a DeRozan, like that's a high tier 2, something like that. I might be misconstruing values, but the right thing. And I think I saw someone who put $500 or $800 down on the Kings to win the Pacific, and he would get like 60,000 if they won, and they finally gave him a cash out of like $20,000. And like, yeah, I would just cash out. What's the extra 40,000? Or like in this case, what am I going to do with that $25? Even if I'm just playing at the limited level, like how many more great cards am I going to buy at $25?
Right.
So I think
that's the right answer. I think
kind of contradicted myself at the end there, though, because like
you did. I think the right answer is knowing your team.
Yeah.
I think that's the honest answer. If your team's still trash and you don't, this is where my answer would be, I guess. If you have McConnell in your gallery already, and your team is pretty awesome with him, then I wouldn't sell. But if I'm just like, if it's just trash, if it's not good, and like I'm like looking and I'm like, maybe I can squeak out a tier 5 or a tier 4, then the value of that tier 5 or tier 4 is going to be less than the money I made from McConnell. So I think having an awareness of like your upside, of your likely projection to win, like I'm trying to think of a good example. Maybe you did it with Naz Reid. Okay, so we know Gobert's out. Let's just say Naz Reid's sitting on he has some baked in high games. It's gonna be hard, but let's just assume that he is like at a 20. I think he could probably get back down to a 20. But we know his upside's what, 45, 50, depending on games.
Yeah, Reed's only at 24 right now.
Okay, so he's coming back down. I saw for a while he was like 30. I think he got to a
33, I think.
Yeah, he got up really high. So it must be one of those ceiling games fell off. But
he had he had 3 games where he played 9, 10, and 13 minutes, and that just like really helps.
That helps. Yeah. You kind of want those in there with that type of player. But let's just say that you have it, but you know that Naz Reid isn't in your lineup. Or like right now, Walker Kessler is kind of a flavor going on right now. If you knew one of those two was the other like secondary top guy and you didn't have him and you weren't willing to go buy it, then that's maybe I think when you sell off. But if you did have that other guy, or you're like, hey, this lineup could do it, then obviously I think you should keep aboard.
Yeah, so I think our answer on both sides of this have now been know your team, and I think that's definitely the correct thing.
Right. Yeah, but like, yeah, I guess the biggest thing is like how high are you willing to go for the guys that won't be that helpful in the future? Like, I mean, we talked about this last week when I bought the DiVincenzo rare, and I'm like, I'm buying this card knowing he's going to be half at best when Curry comes back. Curry came back a week later. And it's just like, that's what with a lot of these guys who are like fill-ins, particularly with like Reed, because like Gobert, there's no like long-term injury where we know he's going to get like a ton of playing time. And not that you need like weeks of playing time to make up for it, But like, what makes this is going to sound like I don't know anything about basketball, but I want somebody to explain this to me in the terms of how we use them. What makes Naz Reid different from Montrezl Harrell? Is it just that Reid's ceiling is so much higher?
I'll give you a fun one that maybe hopefully I'll get a laugh from Alex on it. But because Montrezl Harrell no longer plays for the Clippers, like Montrezl Harrell was Naz Reid when he was with the Clippers. Like awesome roll to the basket, had like a really really cool role, and when he plays with Harden and then that Sixers system, like he has shown the ceiling, but Doc doesn't like let him go. Yeah. Whereas when he was with the Clippers and he would get like that run, he was Naz Reid. So I think the big difference is that Naz Reid would, in the absence of Rudy Gobert, actually like gets a ton of stuff. And you got to keep in mind too, it's not only no Rudy Gobert right now, it's no Cat. So you've got both, where McDaniels is more of a defender, slasher type. So Naz Reid kind of gets this like nice little like alpha type of role, whereas Harrell just doesn't.
Reed's also 23, which is funny because I didn't know who he was prior to this year, and if I looked at his picture, I would have guessed he was 36, the absolute youngest.
Laird, you should actually, if you want to undo it and search for Naz Reid. Actually went to LSU. Search for his LSU photo when he was 18. It's absolutely crazy. He looks the same. Yeah, he hasn't aged a day since his college days. he's always looked like this. It's wild. But yeah, I mean I think like a really good example though of like a Naz Reid versus a Harrell is what Walker Kessler is doing right now. Like Walker Kessler, yeah, there you go. Look at the LSU photo. That was a freshman. He left after his freshman year.
It's like Greg Oden all over again.
He's already had more success in the NBA than Greg Oden, though, probably. That's sad to say.
That's true.
But no, I think where I was going to go, like the Harrell thing and like Naz Reid is you have Naz Reid, like if Alex would have gone back in his projections, Naz Reid was a crazy points per minute guy. Like in DFS, he always produced high points per minute when he would get short amount of time. So those are the guys that, like TJ McConnell is actually the same. So maybe this is actually a really good like search for the type of guys, if you're using Alex's projections or somebody, is search by points per minute, because TJ McConnell is a guy that in short time always would produce over a fantasy point per minute, whereas Harrell does not.
Right.
That's interesting. And I swear we had this conversation like the first time that we talked about. No, it was the Austin Rivers conversation. It was like the points per minute, points per 100 possession. Like if you're really debating on where you find those guys, it's those stats. So yeah, I'm actually gonna look at that right now because that's real interesting.
But like, so hold on, I gotta freeze because I was just listening to a basketball podcast on the way over here. Dayron, I'm gonna give Gators pump of the week if we're gonna steal Sean's whole thing. Dayron Sharp. Oh no, that's Dayron Sharp. I was thinking Shaden Sharp, which I don't think you're far enough down it. But Shaden Sharp from Portland. Yeah, they're starting to get to be some Lillard potential trade grumbles. Just a few feelers are getting put out there. And if that were to happen, something like that, and Portland decides to give up this year, man, Shaden Sharp, plenty of points per minute. Guys absolutely love him. I mean, he's only on an L10 of 11. What is his limited right now?
$12.
0.009. I think you could go crazier than stashing a Shaden Sharp in your roster. A 2 ETH for a super rare, Laird. When are you jumping aboard?
Yeah, just what I need. So actually, Jeb Bush is here. Jeb, thanks for joining us here. He said, someone like McConnell will spike in the future. So if you do buy near the top and hold through the massive dip, you'll be able to flip or use again.
Team hold.
So the problem, though, literally team hold. So the problem is that, like, you're probably not flipping it for that much. Like if you're buying on the way up, you're actually not making that much, even if he does spike again. And I mean, we have seen guys spike multiple times in a season. I can't think of anyone who's spiked 3 times, but there are plenty of 2. Shout out Juan Toscano Anderson. But
see,
I don't know. It just doesn't seem like and not that like selling at a massive loss makes sense either. But it's more like, do you even buy those guys anyway, or do you just buy them? I mean, I guess what Alex said, like McConnell wasn't going to be on his list anyway.
And that's just on me. So really quick, I just looked up the points per minute between the three guys we were talking about. Montrezl Harrell's at 0.08 points per minute, which is pretty abysmal. And then McConnell and Reed are both, crazy enough, 1.1577. Both of them exactly 1.1577 points per minute. So, I mean, that's like, it's not double, but it's another what?
But like
another point every 3 minutes.
Here's another one that was good though. Walker Kessler was a guy that we could see that too, because when he was backing up Kelly Olynyk, he wasn't getting much more than like 20 minutes per game, but he was showing good points per minute. Nice
1.235. Better than both the guys we mentioned.
Did you know? Is that why you're bringing that up, Laird? Yeah. But what was it?
Not my finest day. What's that?
Alex, 1.25?
1.235, yeah. So better than Reed and McConnell.
I want to put another question to you guys, and to Jeb Bush on it too. Hold on, I got skaters here. But anyhow, what I've always had the hardest problem with storing guys or holding them long is just because of the unknown with values, especially in the limited market, because, we technically have 5,000 mints that could happen. So, you could hold to the next spike, so to speak, but who's to say the next spike isn't 30% less than the previous one or things like that. So that's where I sometimes struggle with the stashing guys aspect. Like, do you guys feel anything there or disagree?
So again, going back to the point that, like, I'm not really at the limited level, I'm not going to make anything that makes a difference in my gallery. That's funny. Shamit's got a triple middle finger right there in the middle and two on the side. I'm not going to make anything of consequence on these guys. So, like, look at the difference between, like, first and 20th place in a lot of contests. It's like 3 points. Yeah. So, like, XP at that level makes a big, big difference. So I'm flipping a whole lot less than I was. And I don't know. Well, the funny part about it is, and Keith, I think we both kind of hit this at the same time. We were both kind of like, all right, I am tired. I can't just keep going out and running down these guys and making these constant deals and taking losses to bring these guys in. And I stopped buying, and I've had the best week and a half, like 2-3 game weeks in the last 2 weeks since I started doing that. So, like, it hasn't even worked out. The one guy I went out and bought was Isaiah Jackson this week, and he gave me a nice one.
Because you were late. You were late on him, though, too.
I was very late. I was late on everything because I was on vacation.
But that was, by the way, another guy, incredibly high points per minute, Isaiah Jackson.
And I kind of settled, like, I didn't mind where I bought him at. I was at like 0.06 on his rare, and I was kind of just okay with it because the other people at that level, like at the 14, it was like, it's him or Joe Harris, who I also bought, or like really pay up for the guys that I was 2 weeks late on. So I just went with it, even though I didn't. Miles Turner was questionable at the time. It's not pertinent or anything like that. My long-standing point was at the limited level, like, I'm just going to hold. I've held every bad limited purchase that I've made because, like, I'd have to sell 5 of them to get one of the next cheat codes. And I just don't want to chase it at the rare level because the amount of loss that I would take it would set me back 2-3 weeks of winning.
And for the record, that's why I wanted to bring up the topic again, Laird, is because Alex said that, and I have not won anything since not buying guys. But, that's probably a testament to Alex not getting off guys as quick as I was doing and just not having the depth. But that's where I wanted to go with this, is how much that helps. But I had Gabe Vincent on the day that he was going to be the cheat code and got ruled out in the same 30 minutes. Laird remembers that.
I remember that.
But
that was when I
happened to
bought him, I
somebody
think.
else too, wasn't it?
Oh, that was the day the Heat were playing all these shenanigans. And
that was the Jovic week. Nikola
That's
Jovic.
exactly what it was, Jovic.
But if you remember this week, it was like the worst ever because instead of just sending out one injury report, the Heat like slow rolled it. It was like every 20 minutes they said the next guy that was out. And it's like, you're killing me. But I do think that there's a lot of credence to not chase, like where I wanted to go with this. I do think there's a lot of credence to not chasing these guys, not overpaying. Maybe just a realization that they seem like cheat codes, but they might not be. And, they might only be 1 point better than the guy that's already sitting in your gallery. I've had that happen a million times.
Yeah.
So maybe we just don't buy them.
I think you gotta again, if they're not one of the first three people in your lineup, then there's no reason to chase. Like if it's not a stone cold lock, then in so many of those stone cold locks where the floor for a guy looks like it's going to be 3x, it requires one of those days. It requires a Jovic Heat day. And if you're not early, you're going to pay wildly. Like sometimes this is worth it. I think for Jovic, like the majority of those purchases and like where I see Laird bought, like I think it was worth it that week. And that's fine because you knew he was going to get 30 minutes or whatever it was. Whereas other times it's not the case. It's like, all right, he's going to step into a role. He'll get 5-10 minutes more and he's just not very good. It's just one of those things where you have to know what the cheat code actually is other than like, oh, he's cheap. L10 wise.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. I also think that some people like we force guys into a cheat code. Like we force ourselves to think that guys are cheat codes when they're probably not. Like guys with L10s of 8 and they're projected for 16. And it's like, that's probably not enough anyway. Like, and if a guy with an L10 of 8 is projected for 16, he could just as well score 4 as he can 30. And then when he scores 30, we're like, oh yeah, cheat codes are great. But when he scores 4, you're just like, well, he was terrible anyway. But like, you can't really have it both ways. Like you have to decide which is which. And I don't know, I feel like we have ones like McConnell that just are such significant outliers that the cheat codes tend to, I feel like they're not as impactful, but maybe it's just because people are playing them in lineups where they actually don't make a difference. Meaning they're not moving from tier 4 to tier 1. They're just moving from low tier 4 to higher tier 4. And like, yeah, you can use them again, but like, there's no guarantee they'll be, I guess it's the ones that we know are just like 1 game week cheat codes or half a game week. Like what was that last week when Embiid, we thought he wasn't going to play both games. And then he played the first and everyone's like, oh shit. And then he played this. Did he sit the second one? I don't even remember.
No, he played.
Well, the Paul Reed one was hysterical when, remember, because Paul Reed flat out DNP'd the first non-Embiid game.
Yes. Straight up DNP.
And then, well, I know because I had him in DFS. A lot of people had him in DFS, and we should have probably known when, I think it was like Tucker started instead of Harrell.
Oh, no. We lost him.
There we go.
Hey, I'm back. Starbucks Wi-Fi. Somebody asked where I was at. But that was the week you're talking about was Paul Reed. So I was going to say, though, Laird, I think you just hit on a really good point. Yeah, but I want to go back to the cheat code thing real quick. I think you hit on a good point, which is I think where I've been mentally struggling with this at, is it's like the different levels of cheat code, if that makes any sense. Like TJ McConnell, I don't even know if I would actually say he was there. Like he wasn't even starting. So like in the first time he smashed, like before the 70, the first smash game, he only played like 22 minutes. I don't know if you guys saw that. His minutes were not great, but his just points per minute were so good. And then obviously he had the absolute ceiling game. But like I think the best example of like a cheat code, which was in my opinion like impossible not to smash, was on Shake Milton. Shake Milton, like a month ago for the Sixers, without Embiid, without Maxey, and I want to say it was without Harden. I think it was without, and he was sitting on an 8.
Right.
And it was literally like, if you weren't going to play him on an 8 with this role, and it's those games, like I thought there was a 0% chance that he failed, and he did not. And he was on an 8 there.
Well, 24, 9, and 10, no big deal.
Right. It's actually kind of crazy. A guy like that can't get court time, right? All of a sudden now he's getting 12 minutes.
It does feel pretty wild. Like
Doc, baby.
Doc at his finest. Hey, but let's get PJ Tucker 30 minutes of run, okay?
He sets damn good screens.
And he's really good in that corner. Really.
Yeah, he knows how to get the hell out of Harden's way.
Anytime you can have a 6'4" center, you got to do it. I always tell my wife, I was like, PJ Tucker is one of my favorite players because he was like me when I played. I was
not very good, but
I was I was stocky and I was tall when I was young, but then when we got to high school, I was a 6-foot power forward, and I had to either shove people around or get off the floor. And that's PJ Tucker's made a living out of it. We dog him, but you're not good in this game.
No, he's good. He's great. He's made a lot of money.
Good man.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about that, though, the different degrees of cheat codes? Do you think that that's like something that we really have to evaluate with this? Is like, you know, if I'm one away for Shake, I'm probably paying an arm and a leg for that 8 if I have everything else. If I'm like fitting Luka and I don't know, you know, I don't want to touch Giannis since Laird bought him.
I was just going to say, it's definitely not Giannis. I can tell you that much.
But
what the hell happened to Javon Carter, by the way?
Laird, in Laird's defense, Laird got the one game out of Javon Carter that he needed that week.
I did get that one. You're right.
You know, so I mean, you got what you wanted.
I just don't know how that. Like, I don't know how it happened. I watched the Bucks Heat game when he and Vincent. I mean, like every time now, it was like it was a game at Rucker Park. Like one of them was just launching, and that's how Javon Carter plays anyway. He just dribble pull-ups and tucks his knees in when he shoots. But then it
was Giroux in that day that he went off. Was Giroux in?
Yeah. Hold on, let me.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Now. Drew was in that day. Drew had 24 and 11.
But
okay, well, I don't have a good answer. I don't have a good answer then.
The two
I would
this
think
week
that
Drew
that's
played.
correlated. Well, Giroux was. I think I shouted that out. Like Giroux was like, arguably the best, one of the easier best plays on the site. Like everybody's like talking about McConnell at 18 or 20, but Giroux was sitting at like 32 with 30. A really good shot of no Giannis. 30, even worse.
I had him in my lineup anyway. I was playing him with or without Giannis because he was just the best player I had available.
So,
the Javon Carter like score graph is hilarious. Like 5, 14, 3.
Oh, that -2 is that minus Laird though. Tell me that those last two aren't just the sexiest things ever though for holders.
As somebody who owns a limited and a rare Javon Carter, I'm all in on getting that L10 as low as possible.
I mean, but I think I joked the first or second episode about like my dream for a guy is to drop 50 in the first game and then to turn the ball over and then get 2 technical fouls in the first minute of the second. Like that's SorareNBA dream scenario.
Yeah, the problem is the 0 and the -2 came in the same game week.
Right.
Hopefully you didn't play him. Hopefully you knew to bench him. If not,
I mean, I definitely played him. I played him with Isaiah Jackson. I got a combined 1 point from those two.
Andy, the negative has a negative L10. It actually we talked about this like 2 weeks ago. Laird brought that up or Alex did, one of the crazy people here, about like does that work in Contender because it does actually add you back the cap. So if you start a -2, you have 112 for the last 4 positions. which is absurd in a lot of ways.
Whoever this Alondis Williams is a -3 right now.
Javon Carter's catching up.
I love that his best game projection is 0, and it's like +3.
+3.
Sitting every game he sits on the bench, he's like, "Hey, it's better than if I played."
And he's like, "I'm just here to get technicals, guys."
Yeah, I don't even know if he's in the league, but yeah, I mean, as somebody who is like tried, I think I won a card with a guy with a 0, like a purposeful 0. And so, like, if you're somebody who's like, I'm going to try this, I think it's worth trying. I mean, his limited is literally $1.82 right now.
Laird, please go find that lineup, because you messaged that night and you're like, guys, I think this is a strategy. And you had somebody go like 45 over their L10.
I think it was like a Bridges 60 or something like that. It's definitely viable. I did it once.
So what I was joking, or if you can predict multiple guys to go 3x their L10s in a given game week, is a great strategy. Then.
Yeah, that's all you have to do. It's quite simple, to be honest. This one was just short. I actually thought I had this one because Sebron was a 0, and then he scored 3, and I was like, I'm cooking here. And then John Wall had a terrible game. But that was only 18 points short. But that wasn't it was definitely a contender lineup.
I think it was one more week back.
It definitely worked.
Here
it is. Oh no, that wasn't it either.
It's the guy though.
Maybe it didn't work, and I just like pretending it worked.
But Alex, did the guy end up winning that with the 0? Didn't the guy win contender with the 0? And that's where it started? Or second or something?
Yeah, and he had Donovan Mitchell and
Clint Thompson.
It was the Mitchell 100 game, right?
Mitchell 100, Thompson 80, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. It was Mitchell and Thompson, I remember. Yeah, I don't know. I have so many lineups with 0s in it. I can't figure out which one it was.
Giannis 0, especially.
The Giannis 0 and a Ben Simmons 0. That's how my game week was. How about you guys? I don't know. I can't find it.
It's okay. But again, the secret, if you're going to do it, is just make sure you get the ceiling out of everybody else in your lineup, and it works great.
Yeah, right. Very simple strategy. So I feel like we didn't really answer. So actually, let me rephrase. One of the problems that we have is that because Sorare doesn't include rewards in their API, like we can't study rewards like we do with football, where we know like the value of cards. So it's like difficult to say like, oh, if you can get from a tier 3 to a tier 2, then it like pays off, because like it might not. We just don't know like what the value is on the rewards that we see. But it's like difficult to decide like, is my lineup now good at, like, how much is better is my lineup with whatever this cheat code is and Jamal Murray instead of whatever guy I had and Keegan Murray. And like I said, like the cheat codes are not like, you can't compare like cheat code to cheat code because it depends on like what else you have. So then it's like, what if you're buying the bigger guy also? You're like, oh, this week I can fit in LeBron because I have whoever because I have McConnell. Like,
I love
is
that.
literally the worst play to play? Or
no, I think it's the opposite. Because
like you should buy the star when you have the cheat code.
Like if
is that better than the other way around?
Yes, for sure. Because as long as Laird doesn't have them, aka Giannis, but I
was so close to buying Jokic too. Oh.
Well, the other thing too is
that's pain.
If you already have the cheat code and you go out and buy Giannis, Luka, LeBron, whoever, barring an injury, like they're still going to resell for about the same. Like you're not going to lose your ass.
They're stable. They're stable.
You're not going to lose your ass on those guys. You're going to lose your ass on the bottom.
Right. You're going to potentially lose your 5% Sorare fee.
Right.
But like Luka right now, I mean, go to Luka. Like Luka has had some like spikes where he's gotten like his limit has gotten to over 0.4, but he's pretty damn consistent price now for like 3 months.
He's about back to where I sold him.
I guess he's not.
He is. He's almost exactly where he was.
Okay.
Like if you just follow the line like across, he's basically where he was, and which is the floor right now.
And you got killer games in between there. So, and you don't ever have to worry. Like you just play Luka and you just figure out the other 4 guys.
So Alan brings up this fun point about Luka, which is something I was going to bring up with. I'll get to the Giannis thing. But he said Luka's a great MVP and a pretty average / bad points cap player, which is completely right. Like, but most of the time in lineups that he's in, his L10 doesn't matter because you're playing him in Champion. And so like, it's just the free spot. But I remember when Giannis was out, or did he have a bad game or something, whatever. Yeah. Oh, that Giannis, didn't he have like a 7-point game or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's like, well, it's good to lower his L10. And it's like, no. He's one of the guys that the L10 doesn't matter because you're playing him where the L10 doesn't. I don't ever want to have a Giannis where I'm like, oh, it's a pretty good L10, because that means it's dropped so much that like now I'm thinking of other players to play instead of him. And then
there was a 2-3 week stretch where that was the case too. When I was looking at my like points added, I was like, Giannis at a 45 is pretty nice.
And right. I didn't buy him for that. But yeah, that's what everybody kept saying when he dropped that 8 points. No,
but the idea of playing him with a Luka in that stretch of time was fantastic. If you were one of the people who just went out and bought both at the beginning, which I think that was a lot of people's strategy. But I think for most people,
but that happened to Jokic. Wasn't Jokic like mid 40s for a while?
Yes.
Yep. And that was when you could play him.
And now he's better than Giannis.
Right. Yeah, Jokic. Yeah, right at the beginning of the season, everybody was trying to justify, oh, Jamal Murray's fully healthy and Gordon's good and blah, blah. And it's like, all right. And then, yeah, Jokic just goes and smashes his face off. Brandon said he just bought Theo Pinson because of all the Mavs injuries.
I think it's Brandon. Hold on. I have to, Brandon, please, a moment of, are you our Kemba Walker guy?
I don't think so.
I want whoever was our Kemba Walker person here 2 weeks ago. Hold on, I'm gonna do the Brian Windhorst thing. It was like telling us that Kemba Walker is a good play. Not gonna lie, satisfying. Hour later, got cut.
Yeah, I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
Okay, sorry, Brandon. I'm not going to. He's Austin Rivers, PJ Tucker guy. But no, I don't know anything about Theo Pinson, but I mean, I'm sure that's like $1 for limited. So
I still got him
feel like
at one point.
If you feel like you're ever, I mean, here's the real trick, right? If you can get ahead of the projection guys, then like if you can buy a guy before the projections are going to catch up with it. Like I've always been saying, I think one of like the inefficiencies in the market when a injury happens is everybody jumps, Embiid's out, everybody jumps to Harrell. But the biggest boost, especially if like there's no Maxey, is Harden, right? Like especially if Harden's on like a low, is like on a 40-something. The first guy I actually want is not Harrell, it's probably James Harden because he's about to go nuclear. Or, you know, think about when no LeBron, that's when Anthony Davis went absolutely nuclear. But when LeBron went out, people were running THT. They were, or not THT,
JTA.
Anderson, right? But, you know, you probably should have been running to a Davis or a Schroeder, the guys that were going to assume more usage. So I think that's worth noting, too, is if you can get these guys in that mid-tier, it's really nice.
Imagine ever feeling comfortable enough to run to Anthony Davis. Jeb was saying it was Ransom Reed who was looking for the Kemba card because they never minted any.
And they were right to not mint any, it appears.
Yeah, I don't think nobody's missing out on anything, so we're good. Hi, Sean. Thanks for joining us. So do you think, like, knowing using your basketball knowledge and Alex using your projections, do you think you could go through every team and be like, this is the guy that is not playing right now that would pop off if whatever, like, who could you identify a cheat code before it's a cheat code with what you know?
If I were smart, I would have thought of that by now. I'm gonna do
like
my
you were saying,
damn
like
list.
McConnell wasn't going to be what, like you wouldn't have gotten to McConnell, and I don't think a lot of people necessarily would have, but
And I think that's just a me thing because, like I said, his points per game were pretty solid. So, like, when I sort through here, I just sorted by points per minute, and I get this dude from Minnesota who I've never heard of.
excellent.
DeAndre Hunter, which makes me think that this is broken.
This is broken.
Then I get Jokic, Embiid, Anthony Davis, Tyler Dorsey, Jaren Jackson, which we know how that has gone. So I'm gonna have to sort through here now and figure it out. Boban, who's always a high PPM guy.
Yeah.
Walker Kessler is actually the highest one of the like guys who actually have roles. I'm seeing a lot of people I think I should buy. Willie Hernan Gomez for the Pelicans. How's that been going? And then TJ McConnell, Naz Reid. And I'm skipping all the stars for what it's worth.
Sure.
Bones Highland.
I think
what's the time frame?
Isaiah Jackson. What do you mean? What's the time frame?
Like your fantasy points per minute, is that this season or is it L10?
It is a mixture of entire year and last 5 games.
Okay. For those of you who don't
nothing to do with L10
special spreadsheet, if you go to the player rankings page on SorareData, we have like fantasy points per minute here. They're all sortable. This is L10, L40, and then the season. So like a lot of the guys that you brought up kind of showed up. But I was wondering because like I thought I saw like Moses Brown 1.3. Obviously doesn't play that much, but like there's Boban.
Want to hear something funny?
You just have to know like on what these guys or what needs to happen for these guys to go from 8 minutes a game to 28 minutes.
Right. Exactly. The direct path to playing time was what I was going to say with Naz Reid, but I guess there's a direct path to playing time with Harrell. So I think the second level then becomes the points per minute. DeAndre Hunter's calculation was broken, by the way. So sorry to anybody and everybody who bought him because of my recommendation.
But I don't even mind DeAndre Hunter. There's enough things.
Did he go to Virginia?
Happened there.
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah, see that you can never trust a guy who goes to a school that gave up that scored like 28 points a game as a team. I'm out.
Lost to UMBC.
Yeah, exactly.
Winners win.
So, and answer your question, I don't think you actually can for every single team, because I don't think every team is built in the scenario that a cheat code can exist.
That's fair.
I do think, though, that a majority of teams you could go to and say, I think the way, like, I actually did this a little bit with Sean when he was getting into supers and was like trying to, because he didn't want to go like drop 100 ETH to get supers. He was like, I kind of want like to go a challenger route and kind of play it more GPP, to use a DFS term, of like if something happens, this guy could pop off. So like the first guy we bought was Tyus Jones. Was the single first guy. And I think a lot of teams have that. I think where you would go to do it is look for the teams that have alphas like, and not just alphas in terms of their DFS points, but alphas in terms of usage. So like a Halliburton was getting a ton of usage because not only did he score a lot, but he was on the ball forever. In Oklahoma City, it's
Wow.
Who is it?
Wow, we all got thrown off. There we go.
hey, there we go. That's so weird. But in Oklahoma City, it's actually not. Giddey gets a huge bump if FGA misses. And for the Lakers, the kind of cheat code like LeBron misses is Dennis Schroeder gets really good. Like, so you could go down the list of all of these teams, and you're not going to always arrive at a TJ McConnell. So you're not going to always arrive at a guy at a 6 or a guy at a 10. But what I think you need to leave room for is going, this 20 guy might be somebody that can produce 40 to 50. So it's not like the traditional cheat code. Like I think we think of cheat codes as these super low L10s that can pop off. But isn't it just as much of a cheat to get a guy at a 25 that puts up a 60?
Sure.
That's kind of what I've been saying about roster construction for a little while, just because
I've turned corner. I'm on your roster. I like the 30s more.
Yeah.
I like the 30s with Luka a lot.
There's the points added thing relative to just raw points. When you start looking at it, like, I won't play guys who don't project with an upside lower than 20, but it's the guys in the 20 to 30 range that can add 40 most times. And if a guy goes nuts and has, a 4x at 8, then great. But like Gabe Vincent had to 5x his 11 to be like relevant in a good lineup. Like a 2x out of an 11 is like, all right, cool.
Just get you closer to a minimum reward.
Right. But what has to happen to get him there is kind of crazy. Whereas the people in the 25 to 30 range, they are there because they're capable of more. And when you look at those guys, a lot of times they're the Brunsons who can go nuts, or the DeRozans who can go nuts and also just have a bad game. And those are the guys that I want on my team. Jordan Clarkson always settles into that range, stuff like that. Those are the guys who can go just way above their mark. And then you start to get to the high end and you start to get caps other than the guys who can score 70 points, or, the Embiid 100, stuff like that. And then I think Luka eventually did it. But there's kind of an artificial cap on some of those, like LeBron tier ones to, I don't know, current Harden tier ones. And then there's just that little sliver of people at the top who can actually go way above their high 50s, high 60s L10.
Here's a good one. I'm going to ask Laird. As a Knicks fan, when Brunson's out, even before the season, who would you want to have?
Quickly?
Easy, right? But why? Like, why is the reason? Like, we've seen it now, but not very long. But what's the reason?
Well, he does a lot he did a lot in limited minutes anyway. So like, if he's going to get more minutes, then he's going to score more fantasy points.
So when you are doing this little exercise, if that's what you choose to do, and like the reason I haven't personally done it is because I'm just worried of market risk. Of like, I like to be more short term on a lot of guys because we just don't know what the price market's going to do week to week here. But if you do that for every single team, like most people that know their teams know who can go off. Like if you ask a Pistons fan, what happens if I can't say his name right, but Diallo, what happens if Diallo gets minutes? They're going to go, oh, he'll just smash. He'll just absolutely go off because he's a huge points per minute guy.
Yeah.
You ask, you can do that going on teams. I mean, Alex knows this. I mean, a lot of people know it now, but if LeVert got extended run as an alpha, what is he going to do?
Shoot and shoot and shoot and miss and miss and miss.
Well, when he doesn't miss though, but he can we've seen LeVert like back to Nets days and even Cavs days put up like 50 to 60. So, those are the guys that you would want to look for if you're doing this exercise, not necessarily like, the next small guy. Like, Shake Milton, if you did this exercise, would have been a guy that you would have looked at the Sixers and known that when he has gotten minutes in the past, he just absolutely crushes. So that's what I think you do. You don't necessarily identify the cheat at 6. Like, the answer was never Juan Toscano Anderson for the Lakers. Like, the moment that's the answer, like, you've answered, you didn't understand the question. I guess it would be like almost how I would roll it. And that, sorry, Laird, that came off. But you get the point. Like, he's never going to have the ceiling.
Alan brings up the point that the L10 of 11 guy going off also requires the 40 L10 guy to go off as well.
100%. That's the problem. That's the problem. Because then you get the 11 and you don't maximize the 40 guy. You just use the 40 guy that was in your lineup. You have a Bam Adebayo in your gallery already, and you go, he's cool, but everybody in the Heat lineup is in, and his ceiling is like 45.
Right, like you're putting in a guy with a higher L10 and not necessarily the better play. Like if he's an L10 of 40, I don't think Bam's that high. Maybe he is.
He's a 44.
Oh, then like the 37 DeJounte Murray might actually be better. It's actually it's never better with DeJounte Murray, but like, right. But somebody in that range, I'm sure is good. I want to go back to the Quickly thing. Quickly's at 35 right now.
Because
that's unplayable.
To use a Sean term, he smacked his face off for like a week when Brunson missed, right? He was like putting like 16, 70.
It was 3 games.
Right. So that kills his, and then, but when he does actually play in off the bench, he's still in that like 20s zone. So there's not like stuff that pulls him down far enough. Alex,
Brunson never gets hurt again.
Alex, it's just occurred to me when Laird just said, or we just brought up the Bam thing. When people ask you about that, I think you said earlier, the 8L10, I just need an 8. The reality is that they're doing what we just did there. They have the guys that are already sitting in their gallery, and they just made them all fit, and then want that 8 to be the missing link.
A lot of times that's what people do. There's one person specifically I can think of who just drops in and is like, hey, I need somebody here. And I'm like, you can do this, but it's not really going to help.
Like,
you need everyone to go off.
Yeah, it's one thing if you have like this super optimal other 4, but usually that's not the case. You're just like, I just want to play my 4 best cards. So who's the clown that I need to get in to fit them in? And like, that's just... It's the recipe for disaster.
Right.
Hold on.
Right.
Hey, can you put Boojwin's question? I want to ask, now that I brought Diallo, I actually need to know this answer. If you ask a Top Shot collector about Diallo, though, I don't know the answer. Am I wrong?
I saw that. I was like, oh. I think I have.
There's a Diallo bag joke here somewhere.
Is there a Diallo? Is there? Did he like get way too expensive on Top Shot? I don't know the answer.
Hamidou Diallo? Isn't that his name?
Hamidou, thank you. I knew I was going to butcher it, so I just didn't even say it.
That Pistons team is so weird.
They're weirdly like. Can you imagine though if Cade Cunningham was there? They would actually be like weirdly fun.
Oh yeah.
With him they would be, but boy, I watched them play recently, and they look like they've never played together before.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. That's exactly what it is.
Every time I see them, it's like, all right, first time, huh? And I love Dwayne Casey, but yikes.
You know what's funny though about like the Diallo? I wasn't even trying to get there. I'm gonna give like a little cliffhanger, I think, of what you probably should do if you're like one of these people that is trying to like plan ahead. You should pick the teams right now that are definitely trading assets. Like Bojan Bogdanovic from the Pistons is a 1,000% going to be traded this year. So like, you know, a Diallo type, a Sadiq Bey could be really good the rest of the season, especially if they can like pull down their L10s a little bit further. So, I mean, I think that's another really good strategy moving up. Instead of like, if you want to get ahead of the cheat code, right?
We're definitely in that part now where like you can really just hold guys that should benefit from other guys getting traded.
And that's actually the thing. I was like, I'll just buy Isaiah Jackson because if Miles Turner gets traded. And then I looked at the standings. I was like, damn it.
Like, Pacers are good, man.
They're playing too well.
Yeah.
And Rick Carlisle does not like tanking. So
no, he does not. that man wins wherever he goes.
Courtside said the Diallo bottleneck that reached 3K. Never forget.
I feel like that's Top Shot in a statement.
From what I gather, you needed bottlenecks are like moments that people had to buy to like finish challenges, and there just weren't that many of them. So it's probably good that there weren't that many Hamidou Diallo moments, but apparently that was a problem. So
if you ever need a Harrison Barnes rare card to finish a challenge in Top Shot, track me down because you can have it.
You mean a moment?
Yeah, that.
Not a card.
Moment. Sorry.
We have cards here at Sorare. We don't have moments.
My mind has shifted.
I don't know what it is. I got nothing else.
I just want to address something that was said in the chat really quick. Brandon said, what you're really hoping is that each of your players can 2x. So the 8s for me, I'm just hoping they hit 8 and make room for the 20s and 30s that can hit 50 plus. That's all good and well, and that's great. And if you have a good one, that makes sense. But in Contender, so 2x is going to give you 220. I think 308 was winning Contender last I saw, or like one last week. Yeah, I don't even know how you get there in a Contender lineup other than you got to play
70 from TJ.
70 from TJ, 70 from Drew on a 30, and then a couple of 50s. I don't know that happens, but like if you're aiming for 2x, I just want to say again, like it takes a lot for an 8 to get to 2x. An 8 to a 16 is great, and 2x for an 8 and a 22 is still going to be 60, and 2x for a 15 and a 15 is still going to be 60. The math makes sense. Like obviously you want 2x and you can focus on 2x this, 2x that, or 3x, whatever you want to say with the x's, but it's the margins that you can't get out of those 8s unless it is a Shake Milton situation. You have to know that it's a guy who can actually do that, and the reason that they're on an 8, not like, oh, this guy who obviously is so talented that his coach plays in 3 minutes a game in blowouts, all of a sudden he's going to play 20 minutes. Like the opportunity for him to blow up is not that great. With Gabe Vincent, with Gabe Vincent, there was a way there because he's just a gunner, and you just kind of have to know what you're getting yourself into. Gabe Vincent still plays, and if it's a guy who doesn't play and all of a sudden is going to play, more likely than not, they're just not that good, and they might 2x, but it's going to be a labor.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm looking now. Rare Contender this game week's at 277 with McConnell, Bain, Kyle Anderson, Kessler, Walker, and Terrence Mann.
Okay, that's a good lineup. But you know what's cool about that lineup? Well, Brandon just put, winning is luck. If you told me that lineup before the game week was what we knew, I'd be like, yep, I can see that.
Yeah.
Like,
I recommended Bain to everybody for the last week.
I think actually winning, there's always going to be a little bit of luck that your guy hits his ceiling. But if you went to me like that's like a T1, T2 type of lineup, I'm like, absolutely. Like I'll flash to you guys every once in a while when I was doing the cheat codes. My favorite SorareData feature for anybody. Here goes my SorareData plug. Anybody that doesn't use SorareData, it's free for NBA. You need it, especially to follow game weeks. The best feature right now is in the game week before it starts. You get the projection of your lineup, and you can kind of see how good your building was. Oh God. I had 1 week I was projected the second best lineup on the platform, and I finished in 24th. So, kind of did what it was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't tried that yet. I got to do. Someone remind me after lock on Friday. I got to look because I haven't done it yet. I bet
it's the best. It's the best. It's so fun.
I feel like it could also be the worst.
It can be the worst. Yeah, if that second would have turned into 2,000, I would have been like, Laird, fix your app.
Right. I can't wait to come after Laird. So it's like, you told me I was going to be first.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's just, to me, that's just like a little bit of fun. It's like, in DFS, Alex, you can remember this in Laird too. The first thing you do when lock happens at 10:01 is like, you just love to see the ownerships. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, oh, let's see. Like nothing's happened yet, but I live for that moment of going, or like you have a big head-to-head. What did they play? And so, like, for me, when the game week locks and SorareData updates that, it's my favorite.
I'm glad you gave me a way to scratch that exact itch, because as you were saying, I was like, boy, I could play some DFS right now. And then I thought about it more and I was like, no, I'm good.
No. Gabe Vincent was the second most popular player in limited contender this game week.
Who was
Terrence
first?
Mann, 6th. And then a bunch of guys.
Who's won?
Matherin was first.
Who's won? That makes sense.
Yeah. And Nemhard was
He
third.
wasn't the answer. But that's the funny.
Who was
other
first?
thing,
I thought it was
just
Matherin 1, Vincent 2, Nemhard 3.
But I think the funniest thing about McConnell, though, everybody's like, in like hindsight after the 70 thinks that, oh, it's so obvious. Everybody was on Nemhard. Last time that Halliburton missed, Nemhard, and you think, I know, I knew he was going to say something like that. But Nemhard, the last time Halliburton missed, dropped a triple-double in Golden State. So, like, everybody ran to, I think everybody ran to Nemhard. I wasn't looking, but I'd assume so, and for good reason. And then
He popped.
22-minute TJ McConnell was the actual answer.
Yeah. Barclays member is asking, is that line of projection for football only? It's actually for NBA only.
It's only NBA. Football, they don't project.
Right.
They just project the cool thing on football is once you're in the middle of a week, you can kind of see where you can go range-wise.
Yes.
So if you're still alive for number one, even though you're not.
Even though you're really not. Yeah, no chance. Yeah. Anyway, thank you to everybody who has joined us live. If you guys could please hit the like button on the video, that's always really helpful. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. We're still trying to build this NBA one up. So any help there, pass it around to all your friends if anybody's interested in Sorare NBA content. Definitely check out Sorare First Pitch. That's Alex and Keith. I'll get the point thing right one day. Do updated NBA projections all the time. So definitely check that out. The Discord is excellent as well. So just go to SorareFP on Twitter. We'll be back next week with another show. If there's any topics you guys would like us to touch on, certainly open to all of that. So you can reach out to me on Twitter at Andrew M. Laird. I'm also in a bunch of Discords that everyone else can find themselves in. So just find me. So thank you, gentlemen, and good luck